Hi everyone, this is Saurabh. This is one of my first videos on the topics of sharing some of my life lessons and learnings that I've had. Particularly today, I'm going to talk about the power of keeping things simple in your life, in your career, and focusing on one thing at a time to really see exponential benefits. It might be counterintuitive to a lot of us, where we are already so used to doing hundreds of things every day. Whereas when you ask someone to focus on one thing, it doesn't sound right. But yeah, I'm going to talk about some of those lessons and what I've learned during my career of 17 years in this video. Hi, this is Saurabh. I've been in the IT services space for 17 years. I had the US business for a mid-size IT services company. Live in Chicago with my family. So keep watching if this is a topic of interest. Okay, let's start with what is the issue or what is the problem we face generally when we look at multitasking or focusing on too many things at time, and which is our usual being, right? Growing up in the IT services space, you get used to working on different projects, especially if you work out of an office. You go there, you're meeting your colleagues, you have 10 meetings spread out during the day. Then you're supposed to get your work done as well. If one of you is actually working directly with customers, you have to also prepare for customer meetings. Any type of consulting work requires a lot of thinking and time alone where you can sit down and work. And outside of that, there is family and friends and other things in life which you have to take care also. So we are often taking care of hundreds and hundreds of things which are running across in our mind, and we're trying to kind of multitask across all of this. The problem is this distraction never lets us focus on something which is most valuable for us. It never lets us sit down and take a stock of, hey, what is the most important thing for me at this point in time. We'll again, in the jargon of IT services, we say, what is that thing that is going to move the needle for you? Most people do not sit down and take a note of that. Generally, the problem you face is that when you don't take time to sit down and think what is most important for you, time just goes by. So today we're going to talk about how do we fix that. This is a huge problem, especially if you're looking to make an exponential leap over next 5 to 10 years in your life, right? The focus is the number one thing for you. Let me start by sharing a personal anecdote, not too far away in my life. So, in 2022, I started my own company. I was working for many years in the IT services space, and we were doing well. And I always wanted to sit down and start my own business, especially in the IT services space. Long story short, we eventually did not succeed, and I folded the company after working and making this attempt for a year. But one of the key lessons which stood out from that is actually the basis of this video also. When I was trying to start my own business, I was actually focusing on too many things at one time. I was trying to register the business, basically working with the CA and getting the company, sort of registered. I was working on building the website myself. I had technology and business skills, but I was preparing some slides and decks and presentations and what's going to be the agenda of the company, what are the principles of the company, uh, what is going to be our introduction when we go in front of customers. So I was working on all of that, and literally 17, 16, 15, that's the number of hours I was working every day. So to the point that after about 4 or 5 months, I was very burnt out. I was focused on too many things, and yes, we got across several customers. We did several POCs. I also hired some temporary staff members to get some of our POCs done, etc., etc. But the long story short, the lesson from that was that the number one thing which mattered to be successful in a business was clients. website and presentations and proposal formats and all of that stuff could have waited. The only number one thing which I needed to focus probably even before starting was getting a couple of customers and really getting started with that. So that's basically your uh, that one thing for me which could have made the whole business proposition successful. Now I can't obviously see the future, and I couldn't have seen the future at that time. But then this is one of the lessons learned from that experience, and in future as well, if I do something on those lines, I would actually focus on that one thing. The same story, the same lesson I'm applying in this case when I've started my YouTube channel. I'm not trying to do 100 different things. I'm not trying to work on lighting and teleprompters and a great camera and this and that. All I'm trying to do is realizing that content is the key, trying to get a lot of content out. So that actually builds our muscle for getting stuff done and iterating. And that iteration actually help us learn something. It actually helps us see what is the problem, how should we be improving, and it automatically guides us where to improve. When I look back in my career, of 17 years, the power of one and keeping things simple actually reflects in several of my milestones and what I've achieved, right? During my consulting days, during my project management days, directly working with customers, selling into customers, getting new logos, it was always the power of one, or keeping things super focused and super simple for myself. uh, Unfortunately, we all need those reinforcements time to time. So I probably forgot that lessons when I started my business, and probably could have done differently. But then that's why what the lessons are meant for. Right. Enough of my story and the background. Let's talk about some practical ways you can actually improve your focus, simplify things for yourself, and really get to the meat of things, and see if that can move needle for you. The number one thing would be you must prioritize ruthlessly. What I mean ruthlessly is that you shouldn't have two thoughts about, hey, should I do this? Is somebody going to feel bad about it? You have to protect your own time. This is where you will have to be very ruthless. There are also a lot of things which we do, which actually make us feel that we are making some progress. For example, I could spend hours and hours designing a website, but is it really moving me closer to my goal? So that is where I would chuck those tasks ruthlessly if I were to prioritize my time, right? So that would be my number one advice. There you want to focus on 80-20 principle. Number one, um, 80% of your outcomes come from those 20% activities you do. So you have to identify what those 20% activities are there for you. Second thing under that umbrella would be, I am totally against any type of multitasking. You must focus on one thing at a time. I'm a big fan of Cal Newport's perspective on deep diving yourself and immersing yourself into what you're doing. So giving yourself long windows of work, focusing on one thing at a time. Don't try to work on 10-minute intervals. Don't try and do 10 different things in 1 hour. Instead, pick up a worthy task and give it at least 60 to 90 minutes of your undivided attention. Time planning is another very big portion of how we approach and keep things simple for us and bring that focus in our life. One of the strategy which I've used and I still use to the day is planning my next day uh, a day before. So in the evening before I shut down and I go to bed and all of that, I would generally sit down, make a bulleted list or list of points for myself of things which I need to get done. And then I would generally go ahead and mark a star to the activities which I really want to focus on, and they should be my number one priority in the day. So you must focus on planning your day. You must focus on prioritizing those tasks. There are several tools. You could use a simple to-do list. You could use an Eisenhower matrix. Basically, it helps you prioritize activities by importance, and So those things are very important for you to kind of put your day together. One of the other very interesting things, which I don't know if all of us have the opportunity, but if you can, it's worth a lot of money in itself, is the ability to evaluate the opportunities that come your way, and the ability to say no to projects also. By evaluating, the opportunities that are coming your way, you can actually identify if these opportunities are in line with the goals you have for yourself, right? So for example, if you were to take on consulting projects for different type of customers, uh, where are you going to get the most exposure? Which are the harder projects where you will have to stretch yourself a little? Which are the projects where you will have to apply a little bit of creativity along with standard frameworks, right? I would always choose things which push me a little further out of my comfort zone. So identifying that is very important, and if you get a say in that process, it's very, very useful. Secondly, ability to say no is a superpower. Again, not all of us can afford it. Not everybody can reply to their boss and say, I'm not going to do ABC. But if you can, you must learn to evaluate those things as well. So during the day, instead of making a false commitment and you taking on too much work, where you're spending several extra hours over the weekend and every day, instead of that, see where your time is, what are the highest priority projects which you must do, which will actually move the needle for you, and take those projects first. If there are tasks which you're doing to help someone or just to assist someone, and they're really not adding any value to yourself, avoid taking up those type of tasks. Protect your time at every cost. Let's talk about clutter and distractions. I think that plays a huge role in how we operate, all of us, especially in the IT services space. A lot of people, including myself, work from home. If you have the opportunity to work from home, things are a little more controllable. But if you go to the office and travel, things may not be as straightforward for you to control. But I think there are a couple of basic principles they can apply, either you work from home or you go to office. One is to keep your own workspace. It could be your desktop, including your digital desktop, uh, clutter free, right? I generally spend some time over the weekends to kind of put my files in the right folders into the projects. I'm a organizing freak on my computer, so I always look for opportunities to store the files and archive the files and move them around. But the same thing must be done on your workspace also. I generally, you'll see a few coffee cups on my table, but outside of that, I keep things fairly tidy for myself, and I know where my documents are, where my camera gear is, where the charging cables are. So those things, when they are kept simple, they reduce your mental clutter. Your decision making becomes a lot more smoother. It removes friction from doing something, right? So for example, even if I have to pick up my guitar and practice for 10 minutes every day, the guitar is actually right there, next to where I am. So I've done this intentionally, that I have the workspace congenial to the kind of work I want to do, and what my priorities are. One of the other physical tool, which I found very useful is sitting here. I use this time block. This is sort of based on the Pomodoro time blocking technique. This has worked very well for me. You can buy these online. They come in different times and minute settings, but I generally use these, and they're very effective in kind of getting me started. Generally, the effect they have on me is I am I get started very easily just using this, but I can keep going even if the time runs out. So it gets me in that flow state, and I think it's very important to leverage some of these techniques. Everyone and the gurus have used for years to our advantage, and really help us move our goals forward. Okay, now on this topic, I'm going to also recommend a few books to all of you. Book number one, The One Thing. It's actually by Gary Keller. I've read this book about 3 times. Every time I read the book, it reminds me of some or the other thing which I must focus on. Very, very powerful book. You must read this. If you can, buy that book, um, and make some notes and refer to that time and again. Very, very powerful book. The second book I'm going to talk about is from my favorite author, Cal Newport. I think I can't thank that guy enough for the kind of work he's done and the kind of blogs he's written and talked about this topic. He has a book called Deep Work. I've been very, very impacted by that book in a positive way. Must look into this book. Must buy. A highly recommended book for all of us to read, especially in the IT services space. People who do engage in the kind of knowledge work we all guys do. All right, with that, we are coming to the end of this video. Hopefully, this was helpful. I want to remind everybody that we live in the world where we have too many distractions around us, right? Not helpful. Social media and the endless scrolling, can take you down, and you won't even know when a couple of hours are gone. So what you do is keep your life simple. Um, Always focus on the one thing. As if you really you found this video to be useful, think and sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and identify what is that one thing for you. What are your goals? You could identify these goals on the periphery or the charts of career and personal growth and finances. Write down what is that one thing you want to achieve, and then break that one thing down into what action you should take. What is that one thing you could do to move towards that goal, right? Focus on that goal, reduce distractions for yourself, give yourself time for doing some deep work, and hopefully you will see success in your coming your way. If you found this useful, like this video and share this with somebody who can use this information. And if you have a question, write in the comments section, and or you could directly reach out to me. Happy to help. Thanks so much. Cheers. Bye.